Found in Translation talk show, the talk show that stacks truth about politics and today's hottest issues. And it can't get much hotter on the globe. And after several months, we actually have some sports to talk about. So welcome again, of course, to one of our favorite episodes here at Found in Translation, our summer sports special. We better talk about sports, catch up on everything going on with the NBA. Starts tomorrow. Hallelujah. The several disasters and controversies taking place in Major League Baseball and whatever else is on the mind of the first and true and the only sports whisperer, the host of the full Monte show, Monte Perez. Monte, welcome back to Found Translation, brother.
Listen, thank you so much for having me. Most people don't know this, but when I was doing articles about once per month, the Latino Sports Talk crew contacted me because of you, and they said, hey, man, we like your stuff. And my first podcast I ever did about 4 years ago was because you recognized talent when no one else saw it. So thank you very much for recognizing me back then. Anytime you ask me to come on, no matter where I am, I will be there.
No question about it. Monte's a great talent. And then what I didn't know was that didn't know until we got to know each other was that we had met many years ago when your father, the great George Perez, you and your wonderful, him and your wonderful mother, wonderful parents, was one of the greatest bosses I ever had, and probably the last boss that ever fired me. But he was absolutely right. So the world is full circle again. Thank you so much for joining Found in Translation. For those that are very loyal Found in Translation, Bomba Live fans, this is actually strictly a Found in Translation show because we get into a lot of different diverse topics. The Bomba Live show's got a little specific flavor. That show is going to happen separately. I will be not on that show tomorrow. Zoe Colon, one of our great contributors, is producing that show focused on the ladies and mentorship amongst women. So it's going to be a really great episode with Dr. Denora Nieves and Dr. Judith Caro. So a great conversation. So you're not missing out. You're not early. This is just bonus content for you. Got to give the fellas a little something, talk a little sports. So we're talking here about the Summer Sports Spectacular. Of course, Monte, we're all sort of on pins and needles. So before we get into your NBA preview, and again, we'll talk about baseball and the other topics, as the big sports guy, but also someone that reads, cares about science, and is aware of the world, I know that we're sort of dipping our toe into sports with a lot of trepidation this summer.
Well, first, I have to thank you because you called my dad the great George Perez, so I'm sure he's going to want me to actually call him now that from this point on, call him the great dad from this point on. So that's going to be annoying over the next
few days. Sir George, how about that? Didi Gregorius is knighted. Why can't George Perez be?
So here's where we're at. There are two different schools of thought here. Major League Baseball and the Florida Marlins had 4 people test positive on Sunday. They went ahead and they played the game despite having 4 people test positive. Now, you look at what's happening with the NBA who are in the bubble here in Orlando. Over 340 players were tested. None of them were tested positive for the coronavirus, so that's a good sign. But Lou Williams left the bubble for a funeral, came back, and before he went to the bubble, he went to a strip club, a gentleman's club.
Man, come on, Magic City, dog. I mean, it's more than a club. Even L. Duncan from ESPN explained to you, Monte.
Well, here's the thing.
If you really know the ATL, you know that's where to get the chicken.
No, here's the thing. First, they said it was a strip club, and then Lou Williams said he went there because of the food. So as a journalist who's written over 500 articles in the past 3 years, I'm going to go to every strip club in Miami for dinner for the next 40 days on a pilgrimage to find out if Lou Williams was telling the truth. Because as far as I know, there's no better strip clubs in Miami. I haven't been to any since I've been here. But if the food is that good, I think I owe it to Nuts and Bolts Sports and every website I write for.
I concur.
To go. No, I mean, come on. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, we've all done dumb things in our life for our partner, for our girlfriend, for our boyfriend. But would you ever give up a chance to win a championship to go to a strip club and get a lap dance?
But how many strip clubs have wings named in your honor, brother? I mean, that's the different loyalty. By the way, I can't believe you've never been to Tootsie's. That was Aaron Hernandez's place.
I have not.
South Florida.
It's just, you know what? It's just not my thing.
The food is great there, Monty. The food is great at Tootsie's.
For the next 40 days, I will be documenting everything, and writing articles about how good the food is. But no, like getting back to the serious topic, it's not simple. Wear a mask. Okay, you see the Major League Baseball. I watch the Mets now all the time. The manager's wearing the mask. You see every website, every sports team website on social media, wear a mask. The Lakers are doing it. The Dallas Mavericks are doing it. The NHL tested over 40,000 times during this little preseason spring, was not even spring training, but during this time where they were there before they were in the bubble, over 40,000 times, no tests were positive. So it works. It's basic. If every American wore a mask for the next 30 days, the decline would go down and we'd flatten the curve.
And if we actually tested the way we could, right? Because the difference between you and I, there's a good chance we're not going to get our results within a day or two if we went to get a test. And that tracing and that gap, I mean, I was even surprised that Major League Baseball is every 2 days, because now the Phillies have to wait an extra 3 or 4 days because obviously they could test positive later in the week because we're in contact with these folks on Sunday.
But again, you talk about leadership and the leadership in the NBA. Okay, Adam Silver. Rudy Gobert tested positive on, I think, either the 9th or 10th of March. The NBA shut down on the 11th. And this is what I say to all fans all the time, and people who don't even follow sports, who are worried about this pandemic and over 150,000 dead with the coronavirus. This is what I say. Watch what sports do. The NBA is in a bubble. And if you don't think this is real, do you think the Major League Baseball, NFL, I was just watching the Rangers scrimmage the Islanders here, no fans in the stadium. If you think these owners who are worth billions and billions of dollars want to lose millions and millions of dollars, you're crazy. The coronavirus is real, and we're looking at, what the NFL and what Major League Baseball are doing, which is not, as far as I know, it's not going to work because they're not in the bubble. The NHL, like I said, over 40,000 tests they did. Not one came back positive, and the NBA so far so good. Now I have my concerns about people like Dwight Howard from the Lakers, who says I don't need to wear a mask. J.R. Smith, who was walking around and he almost crossed the line because he had to get a manicure. So these are things that I'm worried about.
Well, you're talking to Monte Perez, the sports whisperer, about our precarious state of sports. It's interesting because it shows leadership matters, right? And we'll get into the political stuff later. But, again, as you said, the NBA and the NHL, look, I got to give a shout out. I mean, even the basketball tournament, they were able to pull that off in Dayton, Ohio, pretty well. I have a good friend that's part of the executive team at the MLS. He's been in the bubble.
MLS weeks. Too. Yeah,
MLS has done a good job. And look, and the teams that didn't do their prep work correctly with the testing and keeping the guys, they weren't invited to the tournament. Two of the teams in MLS weren't invited. So it can be done, obviously.
But
major sports has more resources than we do personally in most businesses. But if you put the right effort into it, if people make a commitment to it, it can be done. Other than the Florida Marlins, who apparently were hanging out in Atlanta. So there seems to be a lot of all roads lead back to the Atlanta party scene.
But just think about this: the Toronto Blue Jays, the Canadian government said we're not allowing Americans to come in and play here, so you need to find a home. They're going to be playing in Buffalo. So think about how crazy that is. Think about Americans are not allowed to go to other countries because we're so bad at handling this pandemic. I live in Florida, and I tweeted out, I said it's no shock that Florida and the Florida Marlins have over 15 players and 2 coaches that got the coronavirus, because Ron DeSantis, the governor here, has been an absolute unmitigated disaster. He is. It's almost like he's trying to get Floridians to get sick.
Yeah, no, that's a sad situation. Obviously, all over the country and all over the world, we want everyone to be healthy. And this is a precarious situation. And we'll get a little bit back into the discussion around around how COVID's impacting major sports when we get back into the baseball. Our great friend Ori Hicks works at our NBC affiliate here in Philadelphia, and he still took 2 out of 3 from our beloved Phillies. Yes, that's unfortunate. Yes, thanks for reminding us, Ori. If you have a chance, I actually put, for anyone who wanted to ask Monte questions and shoot the breeze with us on this show, I put in the stream the actual link, so anyone can join us here on Founders Translation Summer Sports Spectacular. But let's get into the NBA, Monte. We're less than 24 hours away from the opening tip. Pelicans believe they're playing the Jazz tomorrow, and then we'll get the Clippers and Lakers. So I guess let me just start with this: is that, and obviously I wanted to see who your dark horse teams are, but in many ways, this 2-month sprint, 3-month sprint, it's really about the legacies of three guys: LeBron James with the Lakers, Kawhi with the Clippers, and Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Bucks, the three favorites. So let's start with the Lakers, Monte. What's on the line? How does this impact a potential championship with the Lakers in this abbreviated season, incredible circumstances? How does this impact LeBron's legacy? And why don't you handicap the chances for the Lakers? Are they still the favorites in your mind?
No, they're not the favorites in my mind. I mean, as long as you have LeBron James, you're always going to be the favorite. And I think there's not one team that can handle Anthony Davis. He's one of the most dominant big men. If they wind up playing Houston, it's going to be a tough matchup for them. The problem with the Lakers is they lost Bradley Beal. Now, Bradley Beal, for those of you who know, played with Boston. He is a two-way player. That means he's one of the best defenders in the league. When they beat the Clippers this year, Bradley Beal hit 6 threes. So he's LeBron's guy. He doesn't need the ball on offense. He'll defend the best player, a Kawhi Leonard, a Paul George, a James Harden, and LeBron can drive, and he has confidence in him. So they lost him. His son has bronchial issues, so he opted out.
He can't mess with this, yeah.
Yeah, no. So listen, and anyone who opts out, round of applause. Life is more important. Your family's more important than sports. So the Lakers are going in with a little bit of guys down. Rajon Rondo, who's on the back nine of his career, he hurt his thumb. He's going to be out at least 2 months. So that veteran point guard leadership, guy who's won a championship with the Celtics, guy who's been through the wars, is not as good defensively as he used to be, but he's still crafty. They lose him. But again, they have the best two in basketball in Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Now let's look at the Clippers. There's something going on in LA with the Clippers because Montrezl Harrell, okay, their stud off the bench, left the bubble 4 or 5 days ago, and they said he won't return for an undisclosed amount of time.
Man,
now, if it was a funeral or a family situation, they would say that. I don't know if this is true, but my only speculation is maybe Montrezl Harrell has the coronavirus. They are not releasing any information as to why. And if it was a funeral, don't you think the Clippers would have said on social media, our thoughts and prayers are with his family? Something.
Could be.
So
anything.
that's a big loss for them. You talked about Milwaukee and Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. Here's the problem I have, and I brought this up on my show a few weeks ago. Their number 2 guy, okay? Their number 2 guy did not pick up a basketball for 4 months during quarantine. So we've seen all over. You saw the Joker in Denver lose 25 pounds. You saw Marc Gasol
guys
come in,
look good, don't they? I mean, these guys
great.
look refreshed. Everyone, this could be in some way some of the best basketball we see because everyone, with very few exceptions, is really in good shape.
No, I mean Zion Williamson, who's 19 years old, 20 years old, came shredded. He lost 25 pounds.
Yes, he did.
So, and I've said this, the most right now riding on, I thought the Lakers were 2 years away. Okay? Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are the only 3 players in the history of the NBA to win the MVP in the finals and win a championship for 2 different teams. Kareem with Milwaukee and the Lakers, Kawhi Leonard with Toronto and San Antonio, and LeBron in Cleveland and with Miami. So if those guys lose, I don't think their legacy is on the line. But I've said this for 2 months now. If the Milwaukee Bucks don't get to the finals, Giannis is out. He's going to go west. Maybe he goes to Golden State. Maybe he goes to Houston. But
is it going to be? It's not like Milwaukee's little market. They got a coach. They have a good team. They're deeper than. They're deeper than the Lakers. I mean, they don't have the big number 2, but they go 8-9 deep. They're
coach. One of the deepest teams. And as a matter of fact, they were number 1 in point differential. They were a plus 11. So they were putting up record numbers and blowing teams out. Yeah. But when Chris Middleton, your number 2 guy, takes 4 months off, and Chris Middleton disappeared against Toronto last year when they played them. Yeah. Listen, I'm all about grinding, right? I respect you. I admire you. You're all about grinding. You're doing shows all the time. I'm writing articles. I'm doing shows. When my number 2 When my Robin and I'm Batman and my guy doesn't pick up a basketball for 4 months, what the hell are you doing, Chris? You're making $30 million a year. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, we're talking to Monte Perez about the NBA. So Monte, why don't you handicap this with us? Because it's interesting because there's a school of thought that because of this truncated schedule, it actually favors teams that have that kind of younger rosters. So, maybe not like a Laker team, which is a very veteran squad, maybe like a Celtics or even like a Denver, which has, kind of their center, the Joker looks, I've never seen him in shape, frankly. So we don't know how good he's going to be.
He looks amazing.
So do you think that this format and this timing with all these back-to-back games, kind of throwing these guys back together changes kind of how you're seeing who ends up in the finals?
Well, the thing is, someone made a great point. I forget what talk show it was, but they were saying that normally when the Lakers play the Clippers, let's say the Lakers didn't have home field advantage and the Clippers did, or whatever, they're playing in 7 games. LA's stadium always dominates with Laker fans. So even when the Clippers are home, it's really a home game for the Lakers. Yeah. So there's no, it doesn't matter what seed you are because there's no home court advantage. The only thing that matters is who you're playing. So I think
it actually might help the Clippers in a way because it eliminates that dynamic.
Right. So, but the way I see it is the Lakers are probably going to play Memphis. A lot of people are talking about New Orleans Pelicans making it, but they're 3 games back. So they got to go about 6-2, 7-1. Now, what they have going for them is since the middle of January, they've outscored their opponents by over 125 points. That's 60 more than the second place Lakers and Clippers have done. So their young 5 has been dominant. And I made a mistake last year because I said, and I wrote an article, the Lakers have to get rid of Brandon Ingram. He had a neck injury. He was injured. And I said, keep Kyle Kuzma. Brandon Ingram is going to be the most improved player this year, averaging over 22 points a game,
he showed 4 or 5
lot. Assists.
I didn't think it was there. He's played really well. I didn't think he was there. He's really good. He's really stepped it up. I didn't think he was that good. I remember the argument Simmons and Ingram I thought were ridiculous, and Ingram showing me it's a pretty competitive discussion. So yeah.
No, he played. I mean, he's played great, but I don't think the Pelicans in an 8-game schedule. I know the NBA wants them there. They want Zion.
They set up the whole format to give them a chance, basically.
Yeah, they set up the whole
and
format.
They're not the only one. The Blazers are there. And everyone's saying the Blazers looking good. Nurkic is back. Collins is back. But again, Blazers believe they have a shot.
Those teams are 3. It's only an 8-game season. So those teams are going to have to go 7-1, 8-0, 6-2. And you're going to have to assume Memphis is going to go 3-5. So it's going to be very hard for them to move up the ladder.
You have to beat them twice. It's tough.
Right.
Yeah, they're back, and all that to play the Lakers.
So I think the Lakers are going to play Memphis. They're going to win, and then they're going to wind up playing either Denver, who we've talked about, but Denver doesn't have a number 2 scoring option. They are a very good deep team, but there's no one on that roster that night in and night out is going to give you 20 points a game like an Anthony Davis, like a Paul George. So I think the Lakers get to the Western Conference Final, but here's the problem with the Clippers. They're going to wind up playing maybe Dallas in the first round. And Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, and people forget about Seth Curry, who's a better defender than his brother and can light it up. He could shoot the 3, not as good as his brother, but he could carry a team for a quarter,
They played the Sixers last night. Tim Hardaway Jr. looked good.
Yes, Tim Hardaway Jr., former Knick.
Their young guys who were kind of no-name guys looked good last night. They took advantage of the break. They're well coached. Rick Carlisle is one of the top coaches. Maverick's going to be a problem. Monte, I'm going to give you a second to catch your breath. I'm actually going to play a clip from the Found in Translation show last week where we had a social media sensation, Joe Anthony. I believe this guy stole your moves. So I want you to analyze this performance. They're going to let me know what moves he stole from Monte Perez, the Sports Whisperer. Joe Anthony, flashback here, and then we'll get back to the Sports Whisperer, Monte Perez, to finish our NBA preview. The guests on that are really making things happen, that got the buzz going. And for the last 7-8 days, whenever you drop that video, brother, you have been one of the biggest figures of my life because every Latina I know is sharing it. saying, that's me. That's how I am in the car. That's my release. So there's a lot of people feeling you, brother. So I just want to congratulate you because you have gone viral in a very positive way.
Oh, thank you. And that's the intention. The intention is to make, with all the tension that's happening right now around the world, I figure this is one of those opportunities that I like to take advantage of and spread a little bit of joy into people's lives. So it's the whole main purpose on why I do them.
Oh, well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Christina Vega, producer of Bomba Live there. She was very happy. So this guy with his reggaeton dance moves in the car is such a sensation.
Styling.
Oh yeah, no, he's quite something. But New York guy, interesting guy, Drew Anthony. So anyway, we're talking the NBA playoffs here at Monte Perez. So Monte, give me some predictions. Well, I guess give me a couple keys that fans that are kind of getting back into the NBA here after a 4-month layoff need, besides the big names and the obvious lines that we just talked about. What are 1 or 2 keys you're going to be looking out for as these sort of seeding games in the playoffs evolve?
Well, I think, let's just throw the injuries out of the way because I think, you're going to see a lot of groin pulls, a lot of hamstrings, and that doesn't bode well for someone like Kawhi Leonard, who's had leg problems. Paul George has had a ton of injuries. So what I'm going to say is that the Lakers and Clippers get to the finals, but I think the Clippers are going to be beaten up a little bit. I think they'll go 5 or 6 with Dallas. And I think the Houston Rockets will give them a test where the Lakers will either play Denver or Utah in the second round. So I think the Lakers are going to be fresh, and I'm taking the Lakers to win the West. So I'm taking the Lakers, even though most people have the Clippers favored. I'm taking the Lakers. In the East, I'm going to take the Sixers and the Celtics to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm taking the Celtics for 2 reasons. I think Jason Tatum is the future star of the NBA. He has carried that team. When he went out to LA this year, he was the best player on the court. I think he scored 39 and 44 points against the Lakers and the Clippers. And I just love Brad Stevens. I think he's just a phenomenal coach. And listen, I love the Sixers. They were 27-2 at home. They had a lot of chemistry problems, but according to Tobias Harris, they've worked it out. So I think the Sixers and the Celtics get to the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, and we have an old-fashioned Lakers-Celtics Finals with the Lakers winning in 6.
No, that's a legitimate prediction. Our homie Omo, my buddy Jay Omo, on one of our favorite buddies to talk sports about on Twitter here. What about our 76ers? Philly guy, Monty just talked about him. So a lot of the people in the basketball nerd world are bullish on the Sixers, because they know that, despite our lackluster regular season with injuries and Simmons' chemistry, Horford, Simmons not willing to shoot, all the above, questionable coaching, that, this team has a lot of talent. They could make a run. And so Simmons has shot a couple threes in these scrimmages. People are getting excited. I think the bottom line is I really think the seeding piece is really important for the Sixers. Unlike a lot of these other teams, I think this 8-game seed, are they going to be able to stay healthy? Embiid only played a half in these 3 scrimmages. I'm concerned about that. This is a sprint, brother. You gotta play. And, and I really think, ironically, I think we need to get to the 4th seed to avoid the Celtics as much as possible.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to play the Celtics in the early rounds.
We don't want to play the Celtics even in the second round. So I almost feel like the best shot we would have to get to the Eastern Conference Finals would actually be a scenario where we play to Miami or in Indiana in the first round and then play the Milwaukee. Because the bottom line is we're going to have to play them at some point, and we match up well with Milwaukee. We have the size, we have the switchability. They don't have that other that number 2 star that you're talking about. That we have guys that can defend both Middleton and Giannis as much as good as anybody. And for whatever reason, even though they have a really good coach, Budenholzer, but he doesn't. Our coach Brett Brown can handle him for whatever reason. They come from the Spurs coaching tree. They sort of know each other's moves. Where the coach, Brad Stevens, just whips his butt every time with the Celtics. And you're right, Tatum's got the eye of the tiger. And I fear Celtics.
I'm not going to count out Milwaukee, but, if I was a betting man, I would say that the Celtics are going to be the best team. And one of the things I didn't realize, Enes Kanter, I've said this on my show as well, he did an interview on ESPN, and he said that the Celtics 2 to 3 times a week would have virtual workouts with their trainers on a computer like this, and the team really stuck together. So that team has great chemistry. And when you're in a bubble like this, this, no matter who your friend is, your wife, your boyfriend, if you're with someone 24/7, little things are going to get on your nerves. And the Celtics seem to have the best chemistry in the Eastern Conference right now.
It's interesting because Kemba Walker did a ton for the chemistry, but I almost feel like on some level he does limit them a little bit in the playoffs because of his physical size. That's a good matchup for the Sixers, actually. Even when he was the Hornets, we always could handle him pretty well because we have those big guards and those big guys. And also he's been banged up. So he's had some injury issues that we have to look at.
And listen, we cannot factor in, players, doing the wrong thing, wanting to go to a strip club, wanting to get those wings. After a couple of months, couple of weeks, listen, Lou Williams was not in the bubble for a week, and he went to the Atlanta strip club. So, and my mom was so mad at me for talking about it on my show. She's like, you shouldn't be saying those things. But it's not like I'm a private investigator and was waiting in the wings. This is a national story.
My man Harlow. So let's give our buddy Ori Hicks again, sports producer here at NBC in Philadelphia. Ori Hicks says the Sixth strategy is the better strategy. Build the momentum to beat the Bucks in Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics have no answer for Embiid, but Embiid has to play. At full strength. We have too much size for Kemba, as we were talking about.
Yeah, but the problem, if they stay in the 6th seed, they're going to play. If it ends the way it is and no one moves up, they're playing the Celtics, who are the 3 seed.
That would be quite a gauntlet. Monte, I'm going to play another video in your honor.
Okay, good. I like
another highlight. We're going to go old school. Let's go high school for you, young guy. We're going to go high school. I think this might have been one of your high school crushes. So let's check this out. It's not Alyssa Milano. I know that was the first thing that came to mind. But let's check out a high school crush of Monte's, a little musical interlude, and then we'll come back and talk Major League Baseball with Monte Perez, the Sports Whisperer.
Thing is that freestyle was everything to me. My cousin Guido, who still lives in the Bronx, was the first one to introduce me and sneak me into the Copacabana. So it's kind of
kidding.
So
Look who's on screen.
Yeah, I mean,
is that queso?
So Rosa,
It was the 80s.
Tell us about the Copa in the 80s.
No, actually, all I remember was dancing and always getting in trouble for breaking curfew. It's just what it is.
I can't explain what I'm going through. Wish I could find the right words to say. Losing control and it's over you. Nobody else can make me feel this way. Could it just be that I'm curious and I want to make you play my game? But something tells me that it's serious because I go insane when I hear your name. I'm hooked on you, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm hooked on you, yeah. What can I do? It's over you.
Come on, Monte.
That is amazing.
Was that not fantastic?
Come on.
Betty D for
standing ovation. Standing
Betty
ovation.
D, let me tell you something. Still has the chops. Still has the voice.
Wow, that is impressive.
No, Betty, Monte, when she talked about when they were talking, of course, Rosa Clemente, a major activist, was fangirling. That was a great treat. I know when they were talking about the clubs in the 80s in North Jersey and New York, I know that brought back a lot of memories, brother.
Listen, big hair, Alicia, Expose, Lime, TKA. I could go on and on and on.
I know you enjoyed that interlude, brother. So put a smile on your face. I have one more for you, which you'll enjoy. At the end of our baseball segment, we're talking our summer sports special here, Found in Translation, with the sports whisperer Monte Perez. Monte, before we talk about baseball, tell a little bit about your show, which you do on the weekends, the Full Monte Show. Tell them about that and tell them a little bit about nuts and bolts.
Yeah, my show is 11 o'clock Eastern time every Sunday. It's called the Full Monte Sports Show. We have guests all across the country. Actually, this weekend, we're going to have George Lopez, who I know has been on your show, from L.A. We're going to have a former Packer. He's going to join the show. He won a Super Bowl with Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. So we'll have Titletown Brawl, which is a very, very up-and-coming Packer website. And then we're going to have Rico, who comes on. He does all our football stuff. He does fantasy football. And listen, if you're a diehard sports fan, you're going to love the show. But we have a ton of women who watch the show. We have a ton of casual fans who are not really diehards because we have fun. I'm a former comedian. We always try to laugh. Like you, I'll put up clips. I'll put up funny, memes and GIFs just to make people laugh. So it's 11 o'clock every Sunday. We're going to be moving. We're going to be doing it twice a week once the NBA gets started, and that'll be Thursday. We just haven't had a time yet. So 11 a.m. Eastern, the full Monte Sports Show on YouTube. The numbers have been phenomenal, and I'm one of the featured writers for Nuts and Bolts Sports. They cover every sport you could think of, and I've written over 500 articles in the past 2.5 years, really trying to grind it out. So whether you see me on YouTube or writing, I'm constantly trying to get better, and I can't be happier with the views that we've gotten over the first 3 shows. I used to do just a podcast, but now evolved a little bit. Actually watching you, I actually came to you for advice, and you gave me great advice about StreamYard. So I can't thank you enough. Anytime I have to figure something out, I always send you a quick email, and you've been very helpful.
And then I sent a quick email to my producer, Elba Garcia, who has the answer. Shout out to LB. And I want to shout out, there's a lot of our Latino sports talk buddies chiming in. George Lopez, hold on here. George gave him back to the memory. Sweet Sensation song. She's bringing it. Maybe want to look for my can of Aquanet. Yes, George.
Oh, yes.
Very
Funny
80s.
Funny story. I ride my bike all up on Florida, in the morning and on the weekends. And the other day I stopped, and there was this woman, and she smelled like Aquanet and cigarettes. I didn't even know what she looked like, but I just had a flashback to like high school, and I was like, I think I love this woman.
Oh my God, that's
Aquanet and cigarettes. That's
Jersey Shore love. Jersey Shore love where I come from. And our buddy Olmo says we used to hang out all the clubs down Delaware Avenue. It's Philly stuff. Very good references here. We're talking to Monte Perez, Sports Whisperer. On the baseball, Joe Kelly last night. Let me read some of the quotes here. Brush back Bregman, brush back Correa.
Yeah.
Then when they said, "Hey, did you do that on purpose?" He goes, "My accuracy isn't my best trait." And it was clear from basic mouth reading that he after he struck out Correa, he said, "Nice swing, B."
Yeah.
So they suspended for 8 games. He's appealing it. A couple other guys got suspended a game or so. The managers, Monty, this was like the most exciting thing that's happened this baseball season. Kudos to Joe Kelly.
Well, here's the thing. Most people don't realize it if they're just a casual fan, but the Houston Astros cheated. And what they did is, we don't know if they had an electrical thing attached to them, but they knew when they won the World Series what pitches were coming and when. Okay, remember Correa hit a home run, and they were going to take off his shirt, and like they do, and he said, "Don't take it off. Don't take it off." He later said that his wife thought it was disrespectful. Come on. So the Houston Astros cheated. And one of the things that fans were so disappointed in when they couldn't go to Major League Baseball games is the Houston Astros were going to hear it every time they went on the road. Now, here's what's so frustrating is Kelly threw at every Astro, and rightly so, because they stole a championship. He gets suspended for 8 games when none of the Astro players, they got a slap on the wrist. Now, you may say 8 games is not a lot, but in a 60-game season, that's a lot of games to miss. The Houston Astros are going to see this everywhere they go. Everywhere they go. And I'm not going to say rightly so, but baseball has the unwritten rule. I'm not a big believer in tradition and unwritten rules. People always say, oh, you can't do this because it's tradition. Well, I say, the NFL never had a wild card. So the Steelers and Giants would never won a Super Bowl, right? The NFL never had a 2-point conversion. So let's stop talking about tradition. The NFL never played games on Monday night. They always play Sunday. They never played Sunday night games. So stop this tradition stuff. But here's what I know. The Houston Astros have a reckoning. They cheated. They stole a championship from people like the Dodgers. And you're telling me the Major League Baseball gave them a slap on the wrist? They didn't lose draft picks. They got a fine. What's a fine? What's a fine to a billionaire? It doesn't mean anything. So you're going to see Houston deal with this the rest of the season, and props to Kelly. It's about time someone said, you're going to cheat. We're not standing for it. And I don't condone throwing at someone. I don't condone fighting. But if you take my championship away from cheating, I'm not going down without a fight.
No, and the thing is a couple things. One is that, that was part of how we handled things in the old days in baseball.
Of
and I
course.
think that, that to me, that's one of the traditions I wish they would kind of, it's called hardball for a reason. You got to give the pitchers a chance to exert their dominance. And the other thing is that, part of the reason I think Kelly reacted this way is baseball didn't do much to these guys. They got rid of the managers. There was a fine. They didn't take their championship from them. They didn't hurt them in any games. So I think that the reaction was, and some of our friends are commenting that Kelly got suspended more games than anybody on the Astros for stealing the championship.
It's funny because I was talking to my friend Andrea about this, and she didn't know the whole history of it, and she was like, you know what? I don't want to see them fighting because of COVID-19, and I understand that, but it's street justice, right? You see this all the time, and not to get political, but people are so frustrated with what's going on in the White House and Roger Stone and Paul Manafort gets released from prison, Trump's cronies, because there's no justice. Like, there's got to be justice out there. And if the commissioner's not going to do it, then you know what? It's up to each player. And I'm sure that if there were fans, and I'm sure that if there wasn't COVID-19, the Astros players are not taking this lightly. They cheated. They had electrical pulse telling them inside their jerseys or in their hip, telling them if it's going to be a fastball, a curveball, a changeup, a slider. I mean, come on, man. Come on. That's not the way sports works. I know people say, oh, well, Belichick. Listen, they fined Belichick. They lost draft picks. So it's not the same thing. If you cheat, which everyone does in sports, everyone does it in sports. If you cheat and get caught, you have to be punished for it. And if Major League Baseball doesn't have the stones to take away their title or suspend these guys, then the Dodgers and every other team that plays Houston needs to take matters into their own hands. And I remember when the Mets were playing the Yankees and Roger Clemens threw at them. And Roger Clemens, when he was finally at Shea Stadium back in the day, Roger Clemens didn't get hit. I forget the pitcher, but he threw behind Roger Clemens. So let's just call it like it is. Houston, you have what's coming to you, and a lot of people don't like it. Like my friend Andrew, I don't like it. My friend Andrew didn't like it, and I didn't like it because I was like, oh no, I don't want to see someone spread COVID virus, because of they're getting into a fight. We saw one of the managers for Pittsburgh get into an argument with the umpire. He put his mask on. The umpire backed up and put his mask on. This is a serious thing. But going back to this, whether it's politics, whether it's someone at your job that always gets away with something, people want retribution when someone does something wrong. And that is what is really, not to sound corny, but that's what makes America, America, right? You got to punish people when they do something wrong. And, I have no problem with what Joe Kelly did. Again, I said this earlier, but the 8-game suspension during the regular season is not that bad. But when you're playing 60 games, that's a lot. That's a lot. So, I really hope that he appeals this, which he is, and I hope they get it cut down to 2 or 4 games. But let me just say that we are going to see more of this. Now, I know you were talking about, you wanted me to bring up Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams got traded from the Jets to Seattle. And a lot of people in sports, so-called experts, are saying that the Jets robbed Seattle because they gave up 2 number 1 draft picks, and the Jets are also getting the Seattle starting safety and also a 3rd-round pick. I wrote an article on Nuts and Both Sports, and it was titled, Why the Jets and Knicks Keep Failing. And here's the point. The Knicks, the last time they signed a rookie to a second contract after 3-4 years was Charlie Ward in 2001. Charlie Ward. Okay? Most people watching the show don't even know who the hell Charlie Ward is because He was a backup point guard when the Knicks back in the day. When they went to the finals in 1999, he was on the roster and they re-signed him. And it's the same with the Jets. Every time the Jets get a young player, he either leaves or they trade him. Why are you trading Jamal Adams, a 24-year-old stud? And think about this. Jamal Adams is a safety. Last year with the Jets, he's so versatile, and the Jets had injuries to their linebacking core. He played more downs at linebacker than he did at safety. He had 6.5 sacks, over 70 tackles. Jamal Adams is a 24-year-old stud who's going to be the leader of the back end of your defense for the next 5 years. And the Jets traded him for draft picks. And I don't even know why people would say the Jets won this, because if you look at the Jets, they never keep their draft picks. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there, but when I talk about the Jets and the Knicks, I get so riled up.
Well, that's what I asked you to do because I had some technical difficulties. So I figured, hey, just got to rep it. You got to do your thing. But the Jamal Adams trade was pretty. I mean, they got, but don't you think they got a lot for him? I mean, that was like
yes,
that's a big haul.
It's a huge haul. But again, the Jets never keep their young players. I said when you were off the air. Same with the Knicks. Do you know the last time the Knicks signed someone they drafted to a second contract? The last time they did that, Charlie Ward.
Too short for football.
Yes, he was the Florida State quarterback, won a championship, won a Heisman. He went to play basketball. Yeah, so that was 2001, and the Jets are in the same predicament. The Jets always get these young players, they develop them, and then they leave. So why do you bring in Jamal Adams? Is probably the second best safety in the NFL. And I said, I don't know if you heard this, the Jets were so injured last year. He played more downs at linebacker than he did at safety. He's so versatile. So I don't care about draft picks because Jets aren't going to sign free agents. I talked about this in my article. The Knicks couldn't even get an interview with Kevin Durant. So the Jets and the Knicks are in the same boat. They got to keep their young talent because free agents aren't coming here.
No, and we're talking the sports whisperer Monte Perez here on Found Translation. Shows text truth about all kind of issues, including our summer sports spectacular. I think the issue there too is your coach because the running back, what was it? What was your
Le'Veon Bell?
Le'Veon Bell threw him under the bus at the end of the year. His team doesn't like him. Jamal Adams sort of continued that around it being an issue with the management structure of the organization. So it's like a deeper issue. Plus, we just don't know about this quarterback. I mean, I can't. I don't know. I don't know if you think Darnold's the truth, but.
No, I like Darno, and here's a few things. My brother Pete always brings up a good point. He said what Adam Gase is considered an offensive guru by I don't know who, but that was his reputation. His last year in Miami, his team was 30th. The Jets were on a 4 or 5 game losing streak last year. Sam Darnold had mono. Sam Darnold, at 21, 22 years old, went into the locker room and said, Coach Gase, here's the problem. We're running 85 to 90 plays. We're not even comfortable with 50. We need to cut the playbook down to 40 plays, and I want permission to audible. I want to change the play if I come to the line of scrimmage. I don't want permission because Adam Gase was like, I'm calling the play, you run it. Well, since that time, since Sam Darnold, a 22-year-old, went into the Jets coaching staff, and since Sam Darnold said, I'm going to audible when I need be and I can't talk about this with you, it shouldn't be a decision. If I see something that needs to change, the Jets went 6-2. The Jets went 6-2.
So you hear Le'Veon Bell talking about issues with the locker room. Sam Darnold's telling the coach what to do. Your best defensive player talks his way off the team. So you got some issues there with the Jets, It's
the Jets. It's what it is.
And guys are opting out as we speak. I mean, there's like a handful a day here that aren't going to play this year. Last thing before we go to our last break, Monte, then we'll get your final thoughts, whatever we want to talk about here on the summer sports special here, Found Translation. Do you think we get through this major league season? The bubble thing's a different dynamic, whether it's hockey or the NBA. That's probably going to work out just because of the way they've structured it. But these guys are going to keep flying around. They're going to keep the Nationals don't want to go to Miami to play because it's a hot zone. The Texas teams obviously are in danger because of the same dynamic. and some of the other teams in the Southwest and now increasingly the Midwest. And baseball's badly run. I mean, they're handling. I mean, canceling. It's like Little League. So, can the Yankees play the Orioles today, and then we'll play you next week? And it's just a clown show. But do you think Major League Baseball gets through this season, Monte?
I think that they're prepared for worst case scenarios, obviously. But one of the things that's really disturbing is, like I said, 4 players tested positive before Sunday's game. The Marlins knew it, and they still went out and played anyway. So you got Derek Jeter, what the hell are you doing? Don Mattingly, what the hell are you doing? Like that's just poor leadership. They have expanded rosters. There's no minor league baseball, so they can call teams up. I think we're going to see more teams. The more travel they do. I know the Mets took 10 buses to Boston because they wanted 3 rows between the players.
Minor league style. That's a 4-hour ride. I mean, it's
not, and that was after a Sunday night game. So you figure they got in at like 3 or 4 o'clock, and the Mets went out and won against Boston. But I think they're going to get through it because they have a ton of backup players. But we're going to see a bunch of people. The only way
a couple AA guys in Dominican Republic. If
the only way they don't get through it if we start seeing players say, "Look, I have a wife, I have a kid, my mother-in-law, my mom lives with me. We have 8 guys who are sick. I'm stopping." That's the only way.
And then it's kind of like the Lou Williams thing. It's like if you're on a team where your team isn't disciplined, like the Marlins, you see it. All the teams, the Phillies, they're not wearing the first. I don't know how the first baseman when a guy gets on base doesn't wear the mask. They're not social distancing in the locker in the dugout. They're not social distancing. So I could see a scenario where a guy goes, "Look, my team isn't just disciplined enough. It's just not creating an environment for me." We'll see. I think you're right. I think ultimately they'd rather have a season that's sloppy than not have one. There's so much money on the line, and by the way, people are actually watching baseball on television. The ratings are up, which is really
ratings are up 128% from last year. But a part of that is, look, you're not getting 50,000 people in the stands, so they're watching at home.
The diehards are at home. It's like hockey, right? So George Perez is still our homie is still wrapped up about this Joe Kelly issue. MLB can't prove intent with Kelly, yet they suspend him. Astros showed intent when they cheated, but no suspension for the players. Yeah, but 2 of my Puerto Rican managers got canned. George, there was a price to pay, and George reminds us of the math. 8 games in a 60-game season is the equivalent of 22 games in 162 for a reliever like Joe Kelly. That's quite something. We're actually something that's not wrong with baseball, Monte, before we have our last segment, is we were honored, and you saw the clip. I was honored to be part of the award ceremony where we bestowed the Doña Vera Clemencia Award to Yankee legend and obviously Puerto Rican baseball legend Bernie Williams. Let's hear his acceptance speech from last month, and then we'll hear anything else that's on the mind of the Sports Whisperer here on Found in Translation Summer Sports Special.
I want to, express my gratitude to the Clemente Family Foundation, Bomba Live, for giving me this honor. For mentioning me. I want to say to my fellow Puerto Ricans, man, we're going through some tough times, but we are resilient people. It seems like we can't catch a break, but, too much is given, much is expected to. And we have been given a lot of resiliency, a lot of character, in our country. Nosotros los puertorriqueños estamos en todos lados, y en todos lados, everywhere we flourish. And we, make sure that everybody knows who we are. So, we stay together, stay strong. And we're going to get through this like we have gotten through everything else in our history. And it's going to make us stronger and better for the future. So, yo estoy con ustedes, lo llevo en mi corazón. And bless you all, man. Thank you so much for this great honor.
I'll tell you, what a class act that Bernie Williams. What a great guy. It was a wonderful experience to interact with him and his team.
And a tremendous musician, right?
Yeah, Grammy-nominated guitarist, jazz guitarist, just a great guy. Great to be connected, and we hope to continue to work with Luis Clemente and the Roberto Clemente Foundation here at with Bomba Live and Found in Translation. George, anything else on your mind you wanted to share with our Found in Translation community? A lot going on in the sports world. NFL's supposed to start tomorrow, I think, too, open camps. So how that process evolves is going to be interesting. Try to ask football players to social distance. Good luck with that one. And what else are you following on the Full Monty Show?
Well, just an overall view. I'm so tired of people saying, "Oh, they bought a championship." Like when LeBron James went to Miami, they said they brought a championship. They bought it. but they didn't buy it. There's a salary cap. And here's the proof, right? We know the Patriots don't spend a lot of money. The Patriots don't spend a lot of money year in and year out. When a player wants top dollar, they ship him off. Remember a few years ago, they got rid of Darrelle Revis, right? So here's the thing. You look at baseball, right? Manny Machado, one of the highest paid players. Mike Trout, the Los Angeles Angels.
The best player.
Manny Machado in San Diego. You have Bryce Harper in Philadelphia. Yeah. Those are the three highest paid players in Major League Baseball. They had a combined record of below 70 games. None of those teams made the playoffs. Now, we talked about the Knicks. The Knicks are worth the most of any franchise in the NBA, and they haven't been past the first round of the playoffs. They've won one series since 2000, one playoff series. So this notion that, they're buying a championship, the Yankees are buying the championship. No, the Kansas City Royals won a few years ago, right? One of the lowest payrolls in the league. The Tampa Bay Devil Rays, they are my surprise team this year in baseball.
Let me tell you, Monte, I was watching the Oakland A's last night, a bomb Ohtani.
Yeah.
I forget, they win 90 games every year, that team, with a bunch of no-names.
So this notion of Kansas City, which is not a major market, just won the Super Bowl.
And Monte is frozen. Monte, come in and out. Your fans are chiming in here. LC on YouTube, he has a lot on his mind. Andrea Vincent, he always does. Oh, there you go, Monte, you're back. Hi, Andrea, hold on. Let's see. This is the fun. Do not ask him if there's a team he is a ride or die for. Wow, there's a lot of inside Twitter conversation going on here. So you're absolutely right, Monte, about that. The one thing I wanted to mention is one of the things that's kind of evolved over the last month with sports is one of the sports that was able to come back on TV was boxing and golf and UFC, these sports where you can kind of, again, it's a small amount of people that you're dealing with. And it's been exciting to see this new crop of particularly Puerto Rican boxers. I wanted to shout out a guy who's made a big comeback, was a big prospect a few years ago, had a motorcycle accident. Felix Diamante Verdejo looked great on ESPN the other night. Josue Vargas. I don't know if you've seen this kid or his highlights, Monty. This kid from Brooklyn, Edgar Berlenga, 14-0. 14 knockouts.
14 knockouts, yeah.
All in the first round.
Yeah. It's like Mike Tyson, right? I mean, was there one fight that he went to the third round, or was all first round knockouts?
All first round.
All first
14
round, yeah.
14 knockouts. The kid punished 168. He put on social media today, he said, look, Canelo's the best. Give me 18 months to get ready. Right. He said, I'm not ready yet.
Wow.
I
like that.
Months.
I like someone who says I'm not ready yet because they're going to put the work in. You know, that's a lot of young, especially this with UFC fighters, boxers, they think they're better than they are. So if he's 14-0 with 14 knockouts in the first round, he's saying, "Hey, I'm not ready yet." That kid's someone to watch out for.
Absolutely, no. In fact, Joe, a lot of Tracy Morgan, a lot of the New York celebrity classes sort of taking them on the wood. Say, look. We've seen what's happened to a lot of these New York guys before they get hyped really quickly. The Zab Judas, the Mike Tysons, so we're going to protect you. Don't waste your money. Don't get too caught up. I mean, you're a good looking guy. You're going to have some girlfriends, of course, but so there's a network that's really trying to protect this kid because he is a great talent.
Did Tracy Morgan use the line from Rocky, "Women weaken legs"? Did he use that line?
I don't know. That's Tracy, but they were riding in style. They took some pictures on social media with some luxury cars. George Lopez, one of our West Coast boxing guys, Canelo will duck him or ask for a catchweight. Wow, George.
Catchweight.
Wow, not a positive comment there for Canelo.
Listen,
yes,
George is riled up. He's going to be on my show Sunday, and he was texting me. And George never curses, but he was so angry about the Dodgers and Kelly getting 8 games. He is furious.
Well, between that and the misery of being a Ram fan right now, he's in tough shape. But he's got his Lakers.
Yeah, no, listen, I told him, I said, keep that rage until Sunday.
No, absolutely. Monty, this has been a great episode. Great catching up with your brother. Let people know again where they can find you on social media and catch up with your own program, the Full Monte Sports Show.
Sure. Again, just YouTube, the Full Monte spelled with an E Sports Show. You can subscribe to Nuts and Bolts Sports on YouTube. You'll see all my videos there. Again, we're at 11 a.m. It's sports and comedy. It's about an hour and a half. And even if you're not a diehard sports fan, you're guaranteed to laugh. And if you are a diehard sports fan, we got you covered as well. And you can follow me on Nuts and Bolts Sports. I try to do about 2 or 3 articles per week, just all sports related. Now with the NBA playoffs coming up, I will have an NBA preview for each round. If the Lakers play Memphis, all the matchups, I'll have you covered.
Absolutely, Monte. And we definitely should at some point reconnect right before I would like to get back this conversation when the NBA playoffs start. We're going to have a 2-week sprint with the regular season, but then, the environment there is interesting. I think it looks fine for television. I'm enjoying it. And I think it's going to give some of these games with hearing guys talk and kind of the competitive juices, because I think there's a lot of guys thinking, in a normal season, I probably couldn't grind out a championship being a dark horse team like a Dallas or even a Sixers. But in a small tournament, Olympic format almost, I got a shot. So I think it's going to bring out the best in some of these guys. So it's going to be really interesting. Hopefully they can all stay safe. Want to remind people again, if you want to watch a Bomba Live episode of our family of shows here with Zoe Cologne and a group of great activists talking about mentorship and supporting each other, that's going to be on our social media channels at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. So catch Zoe. Monte, it was a pleasure, brother. Let's connect soon. And much respect and love to our Nuts and Bolts family, Joe Cardozo and the guys, and, of course, our Latino Sports Talk alumni who are always doing bigger and better things like George Lopez and the rest of the guys.
Thanks so much. Always a pleasure to come on your show. Like I said, you were one of the first guys who had me on. So anytime you need me, I'm there, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks so much.